So, hello everyone. So, we are the group 4 and with my group mates, it's where we're going to discuss to all of you the lesson 1, the universal values and cultural behavioral Filipino values. So, dito po, according to the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan in 2003 at Tübingen University, Germany, so every society needs to be bound together by common values so that its members know what to expect each other and have some shared principles by which to manage by their differences without resorting to violence. So dito daw po, from the words bound together, meaning to say that being part of society or being member of people in our society is we need to be united po as one. So example po, tayo as a Pilipino is dapat nagkakasama and nagkakaisa tayo. So sa oras man po ng honors or delubyo na dumadating sa ating buhay or sa ating bansa is kapag nagkakaisa tayo is malalampasan natin ito dahil tayo ay nagtutulungan at may pagkakaisa. And also daw po, we should know how to respect the similarities and difference natin po sa bawat isa. Nang sa gayon po is magkaroon po tayo ng pantay-pantay na pagtrato po sa kada isa at maiwasan natin ang mga iba't ibang uri ng discrimination po sa bawat isa. Abstraction. So values are the essence of who we are. Values are the principles that hold to be worth in our life. Values are the moral ideas, general conception or orientation. So values daw po is nagpapakita kung ano tayo as a person. So nakapakahalaga nito sa ating buhay upang magkaroon tayo ng mabuting pag-uugali sa mga tao. Next is values are the concept or beliefs that guide how we make decisions about an evaluation of behavior and events. An individual values can be ranked according to importance. So dito daw po, values ay isang konsepto o paniniwala na gumagabay sa kung paano tayo gumawa ng mga decision tungkol sa mga pagsusuri ng pag-uugali at mga kaganapan. So the next is values are the basic and fundamental beliefs that guide, motivates, attitudes, and actions. They help us determine what is important to us. So dito daw po, values ay ang pangunahing halaga at paniniwala na gumagabay sa nag-uudyok sa mga saloobin at pagkilos. So sa papangitan po nito is tinutulungan nila tayo tukuyin ang mga mahalagang bagay sa ating buhay. So the next is values are socially approved desire and goals that are internalized through the process of conditioning, learning, or socialization and that become subjective preferences, standards, and aspirations. So they are touched with moral involving an individual judgment of what is right, good, and desirable. So here in last part po, ang values daw po ay nagpagnanais at layunin na inaaprobahan ng lipunan sa isa sa loob sa pamamagitan ng proseso ng pagkondisyon, pag-aaral, pagsasalipunan at nagiging mga pansariling kagustuhan, pamantayan at adhikain. So ang mga ito ay naantig sa moral na kinakasangkutan ng isang individual ng paghuhusga kung ano ang tama, mabuti at kanais-nais po sa bawat isa. Types of values. So there's two types of values. The first one is terminal values. These are values that we think are most important or most desirable. They refer to desirable end states of existence, the goals a person would like to achieve during his or her lifetime. So dito po sa terminal values, nakapaloob dito ang mga layunin natin na gusto natin makamit sa buhay. Ang mga halagang ito ay kanais-nais sa estado sa pagkakaroon natin ng mga layunin na nais natin makamit sa ating buhay. So, they include happiness, self-respect, recognition, inner harmony, leading a prosperous life and professional excellence. So, the second one is instrumental values. Instrumental values deals with views of acceptable models of conduct or means of achieving the terminal values. So, dito naman po sa instrumental values, ang mga instrumento na halaga ay tumatalakay sa mga pananaw ng mga katanggap-tanggap na modelo ng pag-uugali o paraan ng pagkamit ng mga terminal na halaga. So this includes being honest, sincere, ethical, and being ambitious. So these values are more focused on personality traits and character. So let's proceed the Filipino philosophy of values. The Filipino people have a reputation for being cultural hybrids. Culturally, the Filipino people reflect the diversity of external influences: Oriental, Eastern, Occidental, Western. So there are two models of Filipino value system. The first one is the exogenous model or the foreign model. It is considered as the legal and formal model explains that Filipinos have inherited from Western cultures many of our beliefs, practices, particularly from the Spaniards and Americans. So dito daw po sa the exogenous model or the foreign model is itinuturing na legal at formal na modelo na nagpapaliwanag ng mga minana ng mga Pilipino mula pa sa kulturang kaunlaranin. Kasabay na dito ang mga paniniwala at ang mga gawi na mula pa sa Spaniard.
The Filipino philosophy of values. The Filipino people have a reputation for being cultural hybrids culturally. The Filipino people reflect the diversity of the external influences, the Oriental and the Occidental. There are two models of the Filipino value system: the FIROT, the oxygenous model, or the foreign model, while the second is the indigenous model of the traditional model. So, ang mga Pilipino raw ay may reputasyon sa pagiging hybrid ng kultura. Sa kultura, ang mga Pilipino ay sumasalamin sa pagkakaiba-iba ng mga panlabas na impluwensya. Ito ay ang Oriental at ang Occidental. So, mayroong dalawang modelo ng Pilipinong value system. Ito ay, ang una ay ang exogenous model o ang foreign model, habang ang pangalawa ay ang katutubong modelo ng traditional na modelo. So, the exogenous model or the foreign model considered as the legal and format model that explains the Filipinos have inherited from Western cultures many of our beliefs, practices, particularly from the Spaniards and the Americans. So, of course, there were many foreign influences that reached the Philippines, but the country was under Spanish rule for a long period of time. The indigenous model or traditional model, considered as traditional and non-formal, that explains the Filipino values are deeply embedded in the Filipino subconscious. So, syempre, maraming impluwensyang dayuhan ang nakarating sa Pilipinas, ngunit ang bansa ay nasa ilalim ng pamumuno ng mga Espanyol ng mahabang panahon. So, ang katutubong modelo o traditional na modelo na itinuturing na traditional at di formal ay nagpapaliwanag na ang mga pagpapahalagang Pilipino ay malalim na nakapagpaloob sa subconscious sa mga Pilipino. The roots of the Filipino. The roots of the Filipino are Malay, Chinese, and Indian. The Malay temper is the main component of the Filipino culture. Readiness to adjust to a new situation and desire to be above all nice are the two strongest traits in the Malay character. So, the Malay respect for a niceness is one of a kind. The Malay is a frivolous. So, ang ugat daw ng mga Pilipino ay Malay, Chinese at Indian. Ang tempo ng Malay ay ang pangunahing sangkap ng kulturang Pilipino. Heart of the Filipino. The heart of the Filipino is a Spanish Christian. Christianization and social organization along Western lines leading to political unity and to the Western institution called nation, were contributions of the Spanish to the Filipinos. The religion of 80% of the Filipinos is Spanish, Catholicism. Many of the value judgments are Spanish in origin. Generosity and arrogance are traced to Spanish roots.
The Filipino orientation and the Filipino values and system. The Filipino value orientation is more other than the inner directed. There is the tendency to go for origin models to structure thinking, management style, decision making, problem solving process, and even establishing confidence and competence. And the outer directedness of the Filipino value orientation is indicative of an inner inferiority can be attributed to more than 4 countries of Spanish domination and the other marks in the country. In these present times, the millennials generation and the alpha generation have other sources that influence brought about by various social media platforms. 7 times of typology of the Filipino value orientation, 7 types of being good values as Filipino. Yung pagpapakita ng magandang pag-uugali or pagpapahalaga sa mga ginagawa, trabaho, pagkapwa, pakikisama, etc. Na dito po ay basya ng good moral sa kapwa mo kung paano ka ba makikitungo sa iba o kahit sa sarili mo. This is overthink ko lang po to. Ultimate individual self, individual family, kinship, prosperity, and happiness is it in its holistic sense. Family and individuals prestige in the and fame. Two characteristic structure and life organization. Two part of characteristic structure and life organization is the financial successful man image who has achievement without much hardship, who is Christ-like but also mundane enough to enjoy the fruits in this work. Number two is virtuous, acquisitive, calculating, modestly ambitious, but not too hardworking, manipulative, a person, and things cooperative. 3. Person inherent worth and dignity, a person of Son of God, which an immortal soul and infinite value. Next, number 4 is competition. Competition is ine- inevitable in life, but must be avoided. Impossible if cannot be avoided. One must come out the winner by hook or by crook is working which competition is advantageously good working with them. Number 5 is cooperation, stress on mutual and service with ulterior mot- motives. motives. Wealth and property, pro- wealth and property, profligacy and extravagance. My my property, my property is mine. Your property is or public property is mine. As symbols of respectability, prestige. Some things are valua, valuated quantitatively, quantitatively in monetary units of comfortable levels of living regarded as desirable. Number 7 is social change, intellectual inquire the creativity, resistance to social change, not so inquisitive about technology, ultra conservative in substantial matters, but ultra progressive in accidental things, physiological, physiological blocks to creativity. The Filipino value in system. The Filipino value system is comprises comprises of several layers according to Clearview, Gravis. Human beings exist at different level of extents and that what individuals and social system involve the regress through these clusters. Those predominant level will exhibit
The Filipino aims, goals, and aspiration Frank identifies social acceptance, economic security, and social mobility as the three basic aims that predominantly motivate and control the behavior of the Filipino Andres 1981. Social acceptance is a goal. It defines as being taken by one fellow for what he or she believes to be, and being that image includes a manifestation of approval that he or she is liked by those with whom one deals or is considered important by others. Attainment of social acceptance is assisted by two intermediate values, which are smooth interpersonal relationship. The ability to get along with others is such as a way as to avoid outside signs of maintain SIR include pakikisama, euphemism, and in the use of go-between. Number 1. Pakikisama, giving in or yielding to the wish of the leader or the majority, given if sometimes it contradicts one's idea or the common good. 2. Euphemism, the art of citing an unpleasant truth, opinion, or request as pleasantly as possible, a mild or indirect word expression substitute for one considered to be harsh or blunt when referring to something unpleasant or embarrassing. 3. The go-between, she serves to prevent a direct confrontation between individual or groups. The intermediary is usually requested assist to avoid shame or embarrassment. Sensitivity to the personal affront. The loss of social acceptance is guarded against two sanctions discouraging behavior descriptive of those relations, and these are hiya or shame and homophobic. Hiya or shame, a painful emotion arising from a relationship with an authority figure or with society in a situation which is perceived as dangerous to go on ego. Amorphic, the sense of self-esteem that protects the person from losing face, especially when his or her highly valued attributes are as stated. It is the sensitivity to personal insult or affront that motivates the person to protect themselves from loss of social acceptance. The Filipino looks at the world and nature as controlled by other beings and forces above him. There is a
Filipino principles and norms. Structure. According to Jocano, the basic element of the Filipino social structure is kinship. Philippine society is segmented into subgroups with which the member identify themselves to the exclusion of others. The presence of two distinct personal possessive pronouns in the Philippines language, amin, atin, ato, amon, atin, and etc., compared to the English language term our, makes the distinction between in-group and the out-group clear. The most important and a highly valued segment in the Philippine society is the family and the kinship system. Filipinos generally consider their family obligations of primordial importance. Within the network of this alliance system, which consists of relatives, friends, or followers, status, age grading generation, authority, and power, are ranked and differentiated. The Filipino family is either extended or nuclear in setup. The mother and the father have distinct roles to play, but the contributions of the grandfathers cannot be taken for granted, which is consummate to the surrendered. Nowadays, there are emerging family structures such as blended families and those with same-seed parents. The Filipino parents exercise almost absolute power over the children. The children usually consult their parents on important decisions to be made. The language of Filipino denotes deep-seated respect for elders, especially in the use of po, kayo, inyo, or ninyo, second person, atin, natin, tayo, first person, and sila, nila, kanila, third person. Region, language, and religious affiliation also constitute groupings with corresponding ties and allegiance. Another important Filipino structural principle is regionalism. This is the tendency to emphasize and value, at times to extremes, the qualities and characteristics of lives in a particular region. Philippine history clearly marks regionalism as an important factor that happened before. Regionalism can be traced back to the Spanish colonial policy of divide and conquer. Regionalism is still very much evident today, as when an Ilonggo, Ilocano, or Cebuano is totally new in Manila or abroad, would look for kababayans or kasimanwas for support. Filipinos have the tendency to band together, segregating themselves according to regions and hometowns. One typical example of this is forming an organization abroad and naming it after the place of origin. Operational. Equivalence and solidarity refer to how the segments are viewed by members of a group and by those not belonging to it. Individual members are equated with the total group membership, be it a family or a social group. The members of a certain group look at in themselves as united as one and view the other group as potential competitors or threats. Another bad that happens to a group member is taken seriously by everyone. The success of one is honor to all. The embarrassment of one is likewise felt by all. Utang na loob, a feeling of indebtedness is incurred when one receives a favor. Service of good and a deep sense of obligation to reciprocate when the appropriate time comes. It is that principle of behavior wherein services received, solicited, or not are matched with something similar in the future.
Hello everyone, my name is Rechelle Perdiz from VED to Blackie. So for today is I will report the lesson 2. The Western and Eastern influence on Filipino values and good manners and right conduct. This discussion will focus on the Western and Eastern influences on Filipino values and good manners and right conduct. It begins with a discussion on the factors to Filipino culture, highlighting on the different foreign influence that contributed in the shaping of a Filipino culture. The abstraction of the Western and Eastern influence on the Filipino culture is a summation of indigenous forces and foreign influences that had come to bear upon the people in the varying degrees during the last centuries. The first is the Malays. The basic components of Filipino culture is the Malay temperature, which could be the best described by niceness and pleasantness to other rather than by virtue of law-abiding futures. So, Malays did a culture thing about clothings, not much on jewelries or yung tinatawag nating alahas. But their food culture as well the rise of both as their use for fishing, which Malays also introduced to the Filipinos, most likely the scarps, which Malay Muslims used to wear during their first arrival in the Philippines that time. Number 2 is Chinese. Filial piety between parents and children, the flexibility to go along with other people in the sageliness within and kingliness without of the Filipino is believed to be due to Chinese influence. So, yung filial piety is addressing elders with po at the end of sentences and answering opo to reply yes respectfully. So, kahit sa loob ng bahay, syempre nangyayari to. Kapag ikaw ay merong mas nakakatandang kapatid na babae, ang tawag natin sa kanya ay ate. At kapag naman meron tayong nakakatandang kapatid na lalaki, ang tawag din naman natin sa kanila ay kuya. And other is listening respectfully to your parents and teachers. And yung isa naman is using mano po to request for blessing from your elder relatives. So, ganun yung laging ginagawa natin. Hindi lang to applicable para sa mga matatanda, kundi ginagawa rin natin to sa ating mga tito, tita, ninang, ninong, or sa ating mga magulang. The trade with China was the beginning of a major influence and contribution with the Filipino culture. One major influence that the Chinese contributed within the culture was culinary arts. Some culinary techniques that the Filipino were taught included salted dishes, rice cakes, and noodle dishes like pancit. Number 3 is the Indian influence. The Indian influence is found in the languages, mode of dressing, architectural art, folk beliefs, brass, and copperware. Religion has historically influenced Indian society on a political, cultural, and economical level. There is a sense of pride associated with the country's rich religious history as the tradition of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism all emerged out of India. And number 4 is the Hindu influence. It is the most pervasive in the Filipino belief system. Ancient polities in the Philippines were highly influenced by the Hindu religions, language, culture, literature, and philosophy through much trade campaigns from India, including the famous Southeast Asia military campaign of Rahindra Kola. Number 5 is the Spanish heritage. It is the reflective of more developed societies at their point of contact, broadened the outlook of the Filipino. Spain not only brought the Catholic religion to the Philippine island, it also brought with its culture. In the impact of the Spanish influence on local is very much evident during religious fests, especially at Christmas. Number 6 is the Americans. The United States further broadened this
Asian influence on Filipinos. National Geographic photographer Karen Cosmas said, Filipinos are most expressive and emotional than other Asians. Yet they will have a polite strength and severity about them and a strong aesthetic sense and appreciation of beauty, particularly beautiful women. Despite having a reputation for being emotional, Filipinos are surprised by open expression of emotion and don't like when people raise their voice. An emphasis is placed on skills to smooth interpersonal conflict. When difference of opinions arises, an effort is made to settle the matter with the permissive and go between rather than open criticism. National Cosmas said, ang mga Pilipino ay isang expressive emotional than others. Kasi sila ay strong aesthetic sense and appreciation of beauty, particularly ang mga babae. Pakikisama, the art of smooth interpersonal relation, is of utmost importance to Filipinos. Social control is asserted through customs similar to that found elsewhere in Southeast Asia. Faces is important in the Philippines as it is elsewhere in Asia, where it has been said that faces is more important than truth or justice. In losing faces as an often individual's greatest fear. Faces essentially respect in a community and is a crucial underpinning of society. Social of that respect retains the relating of individuals with almost everyone in his or her world and his desire to get back once lost, thus avoided at all costs. Dito daw po ang pakikisama ay isa sa mga interpersonal relation. Dito makikita ang mga pakikisama sa ibang tao at kung ano ba. Faces is created with honor and losing faces is created with shame, disrespect, and humiliation. Maintain
Let us take a closer look into our belief and value system. Belief system. Filipino are religious. They believe so much in spiritual powers and view themselves as only a speak in wide universe. The Filipino believes in spiritual power taught them to trust prayer rather than to trust rather than hard work in the realization of their dreams. Success in consideration. A blessing from above result of good luck and faith. It is also taught him or her to
Positive Filipino values. Bayanihan. A practice of the spirit of kinship and camaraderie, the custom of bayanihan is observed whenever a helping hand is extended to accomplish a task as a group. Damayan. Filipino always extend sympathy for people, especially for those who lost their loved ones or who were victims of calamities. Familism or close family ties. Filipinos are known to prioritize the welfare of family members above other things. As compared to other cultures, the Philippines has few retirement homes or institutions like senior homes. Optimism. Filipinos have the attitude of looking at all ways to be happy and to maintain a positive outlook even in times of calamities and other challenges in life. Hospitality. Filipinos are identified to be warm, friendly, camaraderie, and accommodating to other people, fellow Filipino or not. Regionalism outside the significant others. Filipinos have this attitude of giving more priority to their province mate. Respect for elders. Filipinos are sought to show courtesy towards the elderly at all times. This is manifested in the act of pagmantano, kissing the hands of the elder and saying po and talking to someone older as sign of respect. Opo when talking to someone older a sign of respect. Remedyo attitude. Filipinos are known for being better days ahead, creative and resourceful. This is characterized by their ability to find usefulness in things that may already be considered as junk by others. Matyaga. Filipinos are known for their grit and strong determination in every undertaking. Utang na loob. This a feeling of gratitude, recognition of one's indebtedness, and obligation to repay someone who has extended assistance to another. Negative cultural Filipino values. Bahala na attitudes is a Filipino trait of claiming to fate and luck the outcome of certain undertaking, hence the expression